All right, so you know how we all rely on data now, right?
Hmm.
Like those dashboards, those reports, all that. Got to make decisions based on that stuff.
It's the foundation, isn't it?
Totally. But it all starts with getting that raw data, but making it actually usable. It's called ETL. Extract, transform, load. It's like giving your data a total makeover. But here's the thing.
What happens if that makeover goes wrong?
Exactly. Bad data going in, you're going to get bad insights coming out, which is why you got to make sure that entire ETL process is running like a well-oiled machine. And lucky for you, today we're diving deep into 3 different tools that are built for exactly that.
And it's amazing, actually, how these different tools all kind of tackle that same fundamental need, having reliable data. So we're going to be looking at some of the big names, some established players, and then a newer, maybe even a bit disruptive approach.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Okay, so let's start with a name I'm sure a lot of people have heard of, Talend. And what's really cool about Talend right off the bat is that it's open source, which for a lot of you listening, that means a much friendlier budget, right?
Absolutely. That can be a game changer for some teams.
For sure. And it's also known for having a pretty user-friendly interface. So if you're maybe a startup, you're dealing with data coming from a bunch of different places, and you don't have a ton of money to throw around, Talend could be a great option for you. That open source aspect, it not only keeps costs down, but also means you've got a whole community to tap into for support and even customizing it to do exactly what you need.
Yeah, that accessibility is huge, especially for those teams who are, really just starting to get serious about their data pipelines. When you're working with data that's diverse, maybe not as organized as you'd like, a tool like Talend just makes it more manageable. Lower barrier to entry in terms of cost and complexity.
Okay, cool. So now let's switch gears a bit and talk about Informatica. This is a name you usually hear more in the context of larger companies, like think enterprise grade, a real heavy hitter built to handle those massive, complex data sets. What seems to be a real strength here is that serious automation capability.
Right, and if you kind of zoom out and look at the big picture for these bigger enterprises, the sheer volume of data they're dealing with can be a huge operational challenge. Informatica's focus on automating those really complex data workflows isn't just about speed, it's about making sure everything's consistent, minimizing those little errors that can creep in when you're working with just tons of information. That level of automation can really reshape how these companies manage risk, too, when it comes to their data.
Makes sense. All right, so we talked about 2 pretty established approaches. Now let's get to the one that our source material called, get this, a modern ETL disruptor.
Ooh, bold claim.
Right, ZAPTEST is the name, and I'm definitely curious, what is it about this one that's got people so excited?
Well, what really stands out to me is how ZAPTEST is all about testing the ETL process itself, and they're doing it in a super innovative way. They've got this AI co-pilot thing that helps you write test scripts, which sounds like it could be a huge leap forward in automating what's traditionally been, a pretty manual, time-consuming task. Could really change how teams approach verifying their data is good to go.
Yeah, and it's not limited to just one type of system either, right? We're talking cross-platform testing, all kinds of environments, apps, APIs, web, you name it. Plus, they've got this parallel execution thing that sounds like a serious time saver. But maybe the biggest thing for a lot of our listeners is this. You don't have to be a coding whiz to use it.
That's a big deal. By making ETL testing something that more people can just jump into and use, ZAPTEST could really democratize data quality. It means teams can start testing earlier, do it more often, and not just rely on having someone with specialized coding skills to handle it.
I like it. Okay, so we've explored Talend, Informatica, ZAPTEST 3 tools, each with their own unique take on tackling this whole ETL challenge. Now, for those of you listening who are trying to figure out which way to go, our source had some really good questions to consider. First one, what kind of data are you actually working with?
Yeah, got to start there. The volume, the variety, is it structured? Is it unstructured? How fast is it all coming in? That's all going to heavily influence which tools can actually handle it and test it properly.
Right. Okay, next question. How complex is your data situation? Right?
Yeah.
Is it relatively simple integrations, or are we talking about a whole tangled web of data sources and transformations? Then, of course, there's always the budget question. How much can you actually spend on this? And lastly, do you need that automation to work across a bunch of different systems?
Basically, each of these questions is like a filter, helps you narrow down the options. A smaller team with data that's pretty straightforward and a limited budget is probably going to land on a different tool than a huge company that's wrestling with data silos and needs super sophisticated automation.
Totally. It's not about finding the best tool overall. It's about finding the best fit for your specific problems. So as you're thinking about your own data headaches, here's a final thought from our source that I really liked. What's one question you'd ask a data expert to help you decide? I think it's a great way to zero in on what's really important to you. And hey, if that question pops into your head, send it our way. Could be the perfect starting point for our next deep dive.
Absolutely. We love hearing from you all.
All right, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. See you next time.